Often cited as one of the most important post-COVID cinematic moments, Top Gun Maverick obliterated expectations, critical acclaim, audience adoration, and a supersonic box office. In an era drowning in sequels to decades-old IP, it raised the question, why did this one work when so many others feel hollow? In this video, I'm breaking down Top Gun Maverick's winning formula to find out what makes this legacy sequel a rare success. Hi, I'm Rory, welcome to Raw Film and TV, where we unpack all the weird and wonderful nonsense of film and television. Let's get into it. In order to have a legacy sequel, you first must have a legacy. Released in 1986, Top Gun was an audience and box office hit. The film's powered by a few simple ingredients: aerial spectacle, unapologetic sincerity, and a cast of cool characters who take themselves extremely seriously. It's all camaraderie, rivalry, swagger, and heart, wrapped up in jet fuel and 80s excess. I'll admit, I'm quite biased. I like planes and I like flying, so even the now outdated aerial stunts, they still work on me. But beyond that, Top Gun has this purity, knows exactly what it is, and never apologizes for it. From a more critical point of view, it hasn't necessarily stood the test of time. The story doesn't have much to say, the characters are melodramatic, and yes, it's extremely cheesy. But that's part of the charm. It is an 80s movie through and through. But Top Gun became a cult classic. Much like Maverick, it was a product of its time. So what came next was quite baffling.
Tom Cruise saying a Top Gun sequel is, quote, definitely happening.
When Top Gun Maverick was announced in 2017, it wasn't met with a lot of excitement, but rather skepticism. The term legacy sequel gets a bad rap, and you can see why. In the last 5 years alone, we've had some real stinkers. Matrix Resurrections, Jurassic World Dominion, and the worst offender for me, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's easy to see why audiences are so skeptical about revisiting old franchises. As I mentioned in my Harry Potter video, when you bring something back from your childhood, it can feel like a threat to those memories. For the dedicated fans of Top Gun, there's a real argument that the original shouldn't have been touched. There's no sequel bait, dangling plot threads, nor any obvious question marks that needs to be addressed. Personally, I was excited, but that's not to say I wasn't nervous. My apprehension wasn't about the story or the characters, it was about the flying. The original film blended footage of model aircraft with real fighter jets, and it worked seamlessly when watching as a casual viewer. It begged the questions, how are they going to do this now? And more importantly, was CGI going to be their crutch? The answer was no, and that all comes down to one man's determination, Tom Cruise. From very early on, he made it clear that all the flying would be done practically and that the actors themselves would be put into live fighter jets. That alone gave me enough confidence to know that I'd at least enjoy the spectacle. What I don't think anyone anticipated, however, was just how strong the characters would be. Top Gun Maverick is fortunate enough that its main hero is a pop culture icon, played by one of the most famous actors working today. The other returning character is Iceman, played by the late, great Val Kilmer. The rest of the ensemble are original characters, with two of them sharing links to the original. Jennifer Connelly plays Penny Benjamin. She's only mentioned by name in Top Gun as an
Admiral's daughter. Penny Benjamin.
In Maverick, however, that throwaway line becomes the foundation for a genuinely mature relationship. Maverick and Penny flirts and rekindle a romance lost to time. It's a love story between two people who have lived full lives. Crucially, this gives additional stakes to Maverick's involvement in the final mission. Unlike in the first film, he now has someone depending on him. The other key inherited character is Rooster, Goose's orphan son, played by Miles Teller, a gifted aviator who resents Maverick for delaying his entry into the Navy and a perceived role in his father's death. That tension between the two of them is one of the film's strongest threads. Maverick tried and failed to be a father figure to Rooster, only succeeding in pushing him away. That unresolved baggage follows them for the first half of the film until they finally bury the hatchet. As far as new cast goes, Glenn Powell stands out as Hangman. He embodies the best and worst qualities of Maverick and Iceman, and this unsettles Maverick. He's the best pilot there, but like Maverick in the original, he isn't trusted by his peers. Another is Monica Barbaro. She gives Phoenix the right amount of confidence for a woman in a very male-dominated environment, but also warmth and care. She doesn't dismiss Bob like the others do, and is a good confidant for Rooster when he needs it. And then there's Maverick himself. What separates him from other returning legacy characters is he's treated with respect by the story and other characters. Yes, whilst Cyclone and Hammer don't much care for his insubordinate record, the rest of the characters all acknowledge his abilities. Any disrespect he faces is done in service of the story and to raise the stakes, not to undermine his legacy. The story sees Maverick recalled back to Top Gun at the behest of Iceman to train an elite group of naval aviators for an almost impossible mission. They'll need to destroy a heavily defended target, avoid surface-to-air missiles, and escape next-generation enemy fighter jets. On paper, it's a very simple plot, but what elevates it are the emotional stakes layered on top. We've touched on Maverick's fractured relationship with Rooster and reconnecting with Penny, but another key element is the competition between the pilots. Everyone wants a spot on the flight deck. During the drills, they constantly push each other inside and outside the cockpit, creating tension and rivalry. Maverick quickly realizes it's not as simple as teaching them to fly the mission. They have to learn to trust one another. In an obvious homage to the volleyball scene from the original, they play dogfight football. It's a deliberately ridiculous game of American football designed to reinforce the value of teamwork over individual ego. The emotional core of the film, though, remains with Maverick and Rooster. The central dilemma is whether or not Maverick should select Rooster for the final mission. If he goes and dies, Maverick would never forgive himself. If he doesn't go, Rooster would never forgive Maverick. Naturally, he takes him, with Maverick sacrificing himself so Rooster can get home, only this is revealed to be a fake-out. Now right here, the movie could be accused of having its cake and eating it. It goes into a fourth act where Maverick and Rooster steal an F-14 from an enemy base and escape, leading to an outrageous and thrilling dogfight against far superior aircraft. And this is where many legacy sequels stumble. You can recreate the action and adventure from the original films, like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny attempted to do, but without the strong character work beforehand, it just doesn't land. Top Gun Maverick earns its ending because of everything built beforehand. Maverick and Rooster start the film at odds, but by the end, they've grown, reconciled, and internalized the film's central lessons: trust, teamwork, and letting go of the past. When they land back on the carrier to a hero's welcome, it mirrors the original film, but the feeling is different. A combination of the earned emotional payoff, a soaring score, and the tangible realism of what we've just watched coming together for a properly feel-good climax. As I said, the plot is a relatively simple one. What I think makes it so rewatchable are the aerial stunts. Putting the actors in the jets for these sequences is completely unprecedented, but I don't think there's any realistic way that they could have achieved the weight and physics of the high G maneuvers on a soundstage or using CGI. This commitment isn't new for Tom Cruise. His career is filled with increasingly absurd examples of doing stunts for real, and Maverick might be the purest expression of this philosophy. The payoff is that the danger feels real. When you see the ground tearing past Miles Teller's helmet at 400 miles per hour, there becomes a tangibility to what the pilots are doing. It almost stops being a movie and turns into an experience. That realism builds trust. To this day, every time I watch the scene where Maverick proves that the mission can be flown at his pace and altitude, I find myself holding my breath, as if the film convinces me I'm in the plane with him. There's a fine line to walk when making sequels to old IP. You need to honour the original, whilst allowing the new film to stand on its own. At the beginning, Maverick puts on his old jacket, rides his old bike, and we get our hit of nostalgia. Then, the film quietly moves on. He switches to modern clothes, a modern bike, and leaves the relics of the past at home. It's like a metaphor for how the film approaches legacy. The key theme is letting go of the past. Early on, Hammer tells Maverick that the end is inevitable, a notion that Maverick does not deny, but accepts. He knows he can't fly in the Navy forever, so treats every moment like it's his last. And that idea can be extended beyond the film itself. Top Gun Maverick understands that you can honour what came before without being trapped by it. Looking ahead, I think part of this film's legacy will be when it released. May 2022 felt like a turning point, a moment where people flooded back to cinemas with excitement to experience something together again. I saw Top Gun Maverick 4 times in IMAX, and every viewing hit the same way. On the final showing before it left, the screen was packed. When the final credits rolled, the people I came with, who have no interest in the original film or fighter jets, were shedding tears. And that's when it clicked to me. Top Gun Maverick doesn't just succeed as a legacy sequel, it transcends the label entirely. Probably comes as no surprise when I say this is my favourite film of all time. I've tried to be as impartial as possible when making this video, breaking down the elements of what makes Top Gun Maverick such a successful legacy sequel. You can't just rely on callbacks when revisiting an old franchise. The new characters need to be built up so they're worth investing in, and returning ones need to be treated with respect. No one wants to see their heroes humiliated for cheap laughs, but they also don't want to see them frozen in time, with nothing left to learn. This is where Maverick works. He's a highly skilled, heroic yet flawed character who has old scars that get picked at throughout his journey, but he owns it, accepts it, and moves on, and in turn helps his old friend's son own it, accept it, and move on. And that feels like the most noble kind of legacy. Anyway, that's all from me today. How did you find Top Gun Maverick? Did you catch it in the cinemas, and if so, did it hit you in the same way? Drop your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. Go well.